Welcome to Eugene Holden's Academy of Self-Mastery, where transformation meets action. I'm Eugene Holden. I'm one of your guides on this journey of personal growth, mindset shifts, and deep self-awareness. Each episode, we dive into the tools, wisdom, and strategies you need to break through limitations and step into your highest potential. No fluff, no shortcuts here, just real conversations, practical insights, and a community dedicated to mastery in every area of life. So, if you're ready to unlock your power, elevate your mindset, and create a life by design, then let's get started. Welcome to Eugene Holden's Academy of Self-Mastery. Welcome to the deep end. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Academy of Self-Mastery. And today it's myself and my co-host, the lovely Ell Graniel. And we are here continuing doing what we do, which is to talk about how we can tap into that part of us that, that little small self that talks about, I'm not good enough, I don't know enough, I'm too old, I'm too young, or whatever it is. But then also to talk about the tools that we can use to number one, identify that, and then be clear about, okay, let's move those along so that we can live our life the way that we were created to live. Before we went on, else, we were speaking about your purpose. And one of the things that Elle said was, your purpose is your power. Your purpose is your power. Great. Welcome, Elle.
Thank you. Yeah, your purpose is your power, so don't give it away.
Don't give it away. It's yours. It's
Yeah,
yours.
you can share it, but don't give it away.
Yeah. In
That's
fact,
different.
yeah, it is. In fact, I believe that it's meant to be shared.
Mhm.
Some of the things I say, sometimes I say this in terms of a gift, right? Because we have all these gifts, and a part of your power is your gift. And what makes a gift is when we give it away. So we want to share it.
Mhm.
Good. Hey, Al, I want to continue a conversation that we had the last time that we were on, and last week with all four of us on, and we were speaking about, artificial intelligence, AI seems to be taking over the world. And I
Mhm.
wanted to continue that conversation, so that we can really understand that as human beings. I loved what you said. Um, Oh, as a human being, what was that you said? Oh man, creating things that have never happened before.
Oh, right. Yeah, as human beings, we can create things that have never been imagined yet. We can imagine them, but AI can't create what has never been imagined before. We
Yeah,
can.
yeah. And I believe that that's a powerful thing to remember. That I don't get caught up with the belief that AI is taking over. Well, as you said, as we talked about last week, is that it can only create what we give it. Now, and it does a great job because I use it, and I've learned how to use it really well. Not to write my stuff, but to help, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I use it for research. So when I'm writing and
Yes.
I want to quote some papers, and now it's done in fractions of a second, whereas it would take me hours sometimes to
Right.
find the best papers. There's a lot of them out there, but the ones that feel applicable, well, AI gets the gist of where you're going with it. It's fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fabulous.
So I want everybody to remember, as we talked about last show, on the Academy of Self-Mastery, is that, AI, it's a tool. So we want to use it as a tool. Use
Hmm.
it as a tool, because
Hmm.
that's what it is, you know.
Hmm.
And also want to just remind everybody that it is a tool and that we don't want to use it or looking outside of ourselves, as if we don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the giving away the power. And you know what's interesting is I was thinking about after we finished last week's episode about how I'm sure there's people watching that are going, "You fools, you have no idea what's coming, how this is, it's already here." And I thought, I understand that thinking because what we know about AI is barely what AI already is, right?
Right.
So we are fed what they believe we can handle
Right.
or need to know. So there are people using it beyond our conception
Right.
at this time.
Right.
And so that's why we were imploring everybody to keep the human, to keep the heart in so don't give away don't say because if AI said it, it must be true.
Right.
Don't say AI is better than me. No, AI is different than you.
Right.
Using AI as a tool, not for harm, because you could harm somebody with a chisel
Right.
physically, right?
Right.
So AI is a tool. Make sure you're using it for expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to find dirt on somebody or photos of, you know what I mean? So use
Right.
it for good. Use it for what it's meant to be, a tool to keep us as humans moving forward.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
And it's a really, as you say it like that, it's a brilliant to assist us in keeping our heart in humanity and humanity in the heart.
Mhm.
And so we do not want to lose sight of who we are. And you're right. When you were speaking about, AI is doing so much more than we know at this time, right? With all of that being said, in terms of artificial intelligence, I want to remember that we, as human beings, are the authentic intelligence, right? That we are what we get to feed the AI, and it does a great job. It does a great job. But please remember who you are, folks. Remember who you are. You are the love. You are love intelligence. Instead of AI, it's LI, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And we want to keep that love and the heart in humanity. Yeah.
absolutely. Because AI, I don't believe in my lifetime anyhow, will be able to hold my hand and walk the beach, hug me on my birthday, go grocery shopping with me and help me decide frosted flakes or cocoa puffs, in the moment with me live right there with a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Because with AI, you have to feed it and then it feeds you back. Whereas conversations are different because they can twist and turn and flip and yeah, and it's just so fun. Like what we do here. The time
Right.
just flies by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what we do here. Yeah,
Hmm.
and you're right because it does flip and turn and go this way and that way and so which is good. Which is really really good. And that's the humanity. That's the heart. It's interesting to have a device, AI type of thing who I walk down the street with. That's a robot. You know, but and we can have a conversation, but it doesn't flip and turn and all of that. And it doesn't for me at this time doesn't have that emotional side to it. And
Hmm.
again, that's that heart space, you know. Um,
Hmm.
to hear music, to be sitting with someone or walking with someone or speaking with someone with some music playing and then having that phrase, catch me and because there, as you know, music is so dear to me, and I can hear a piece of music and would just be in tears for no reason at all other than it touches me,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Artificial intelligence isn't going to have the capacity to have that conversation.
Hmm.
Why does it touch me the way it does? So all of that to say, stay in our hearts.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and continue to be authentically creative. Let it come in and flow to you and through you. Jot things down, Wouldn't it be great if, the shower head also played music, like just whatever, just write them all down because I have my device here. So whenever I say to Alexa, thanks, you're the best, there's always one of three answers. And I've had this device since almost the beginning. Then they started bringing these out. And I'm thinking, come on, can't somebody give it some new intel?
Right.
Can't they? Because it can only do what it's given.
Right.
So I know it's going to be one of those three responses every time.
Yeah.
So that's where the heart and the humanity is missing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
We can be infinitely creative.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? We can be infinitely creative. And what I would like to say is that we are infinitely creative.
Yes.
We truly are. You've probably heard me talk about this before in terms of that gift of choice. And people talk about, because we always have a choice. And folks say we always have a choice. We always have a choice. And I thought about that, Elle, and it dawned on me that there's one thing that I can think of right now where we do not have a choice, and that is in creating. We don't have a choice in that.
Uh-huh.
We have to create. That's who we are. And
Uh-huh.
so the issue comes up is, am I creating consciously or unconsciously? But the thing
Correct.
is, I don't have a choice. I have to create. That's what we do, you know?
We do.
So
We
we are
do.
infinitely creative.
And when we create in the non-conscious,
Mm,
we literally birth it to life. So for example, when we have an argument in our head with somebody, it's generally somebody we really love or have worked with forever, you know what they're going to say, and then you're going to say, you get this argument going back and forth, and your heart rate elevates, your respiration changes, you lose blood flow to your extremities, fight or flight kind of thing. It's all created,
yeah,
brought into the tangible.
yeah.
So we want to be very intention about how we create.
It's a pretty good word.
There's an Ellism, intentionable. Um, and so because it does come forward in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So to just stop it dead in the tracks, going, I'm not going to argue in my head about this because that real estate is valuable and it's
Mm,
not worth this argument,
right,
you know?
right.
So, yeah, really be the master of your thoughts.
And you bring up a great, important thing just with that idea of having an argument within my mind with someone. They're going to say this, and then I'm going to say this, and I'm rehearsing how this is going. And I may never even have that conversation with that person, but what you brought forth is what I'm creating within the body temple is this stress. And that, yeah, wow,
Mhm.
that's profound.
And then that person walks through the door, you had this argument, and they walk through the door and you go, I'm done with you. And they're like, what just happened? Well, I just had, you don't tell them, I just had this whole conversation, you lost, so bye.
Yeah, right.
They don't even know what happened. They're like,
Yeah.
what's wrong? Oh, and then us women go, well, if you don't know, I shouldn't have to tell you.
I love us. We human
Yeah.
beings, as that beautiful philosopher once said, human beings are interesting creatures. That was said by the one and
Mm.
only Bugs Bunny. Human beings are interesting creatures. And we
Absolutely.
are. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that loops back to why AI can't, or at least what we know at this time, get us because we can go off the rails. And because if I ask AI to write me a resume, I'll say, AI, write a resume for Ell Graniel. Uh, it's going to ask, can you give me something to go on? Can you upload some dates, some times? You know, for some people, they're so famous that AI can grab the stuff off the web,
Right.
and have enough to know about you. But you've got to feed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to feed it.
Yeah.
So feed it good stuff.
Yeah. What's that saying? If thoughts are things, right? Okay, then
Mhm.
then think the good thoughts.
Yes.
Think the good thoughts. Had a good friend of mine who said these words, and I have them on my wall. There are more important things to think of.
Like, what do you want? How are you
What
going to get there? Who can
Right.
help you?
Exactly. Exactly. With that gift of choice, you've heard this before, right? Where people say, be careful of what you ask for. Well, why? Because eventually you're going to get that. because that's just how the universe works. That's how the law works. So that being the case, and this is what I like to say is let's not be careful because careful for me, there's an element of fear. You got to be careful,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So let's not be careful of what we ask for. Let's be aware of what we ask for. Let's be intentional. Let's be
Mm-hmm.
intentional, and then also to come from that place of love, you
Yeah.
know, you
You know,
know.
you saying that reminded me ages ago when I was learning about goals in the 80s and affirmations and goals about asking for what you want. I remember one of the things that was on my list was a helicopter. I wanted a helicopter. That was on high on my list. So I'm, what am I, 24 or something? And so then one of the next assignments down the line was to say, okay, what does that mean? Like just saying I want a helicopter is not going to bring that into your life, right? So we're talking about think careful about what you ask for. So oh my gosh, that means I need a pilot's license or to pay somebody to fly it every time. I need somewhere to keep it. I need to insure it. I need gasoline. Da 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 da. And all of a sudden, I just thought, wow, I'll just occasionally pay somebody to take me to Catalina. I don't I don't need to own when I lived in Long Beach. I don't need to
Right?
own a helicopter, but it was so romanticized,
Right.
right? And we do that a lot. That's
Yes.
why, some marriages crumble from infidelity is the romanticized version of the other person
Right.
because you don't have to pay their insurance, their slip, their gasoline, that get a pilot. You know what I mean? That takes sucks all the life and the fun out of it, so to speak.
Hmm.
So be intentional in why you want what you want
Yeah.
and what does it really mean when this shows up in your life?
Yeah.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
I love that question, why. There are some schools of thought in the new thought community, I'm going to say, where, is looked down. And when you ask why, don't ask why, and don't ask how, right? The how is not ours, right? And I understand that in one way, but how do I figure out how to get onto Zoom? You know, it's like, well, no, it's okay to ask, and have hows and whys. In fact, in going through, the 80s and stuff and personal growth, and one of the things in terms of business and entrepreneurship is, so what is your why? Why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I want this? What will it
Mm-hmm.
bring me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When people come to me for prayer work, right? And they want to pray for example, I want to pray for financial freedom. Okay, cool. Great. Fantastic. And if you have the financial freedom, what would that feel like? And then they tell me what that feels like. And well, that's what your prayer request is then. It's not about the money. It's
Mm-hmm.
what you're going to get. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, I'm sorry,
It's
go ahead.
it's something just came to me. Oh yeah, I remember. So I used to teach this a long time ago when you're about the why. So retain your thought because it's a sidebar. Um, avoid being a whiny baby. Why me? Why does this always happen to me? Why am right? So there's what valuable whys. Those are the whys we want to avoid. The why
Right.
me babies.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. 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 Richard Pryor goes back, well, why me? Why not you?
Hmm.
Anyway, but going back to, so this is, so I want to pray for financial freedom. Well, and if once that financial freedom is done, and then what? Well, then I can have this and I'll be free on this. It feels like this. Great. That's where we want to feel. That's where we create from, right? Is we
Hmm.
create from that place of, yeah, we can see it and we want to feel it. I think it was Neville Goddard who talks about assume the feeling of it being complete.
Hmm.
Assume the feeling. It's like, oh, wow.
Hmm.
I love the way that we are created, Elle, as humans, right? Because we're so gifted. in so many ways,
Hmm.
to the point of when somebody hears me say that just now, well, not me. I'm not gifted. We are so gifted that the universe will take that thought and that feeling and then create an experience that proves me right. See, I'm not gifted. See what's going on in my life? Well, I just created that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that feeling is so important, and the imagining as if and those. So this is a good way to use the real estate in your mind in imagining, right? So I've done this several times within the past year. It got me to Disneyland, it got me to Hawaii, it most recently got me to the EDC in Las Vegas, to where I was seeing myself there. I had packed my bags, they were by the door. I still didn't know I was going yet, but I knew I was going. You
Right,
hear the difference, right?
right.
And then I'm telling my brother, it's just a couple days before. And I said, if I have to ride a donkey there, I'm going to be there. Count on it. So there was the passion.
Yeah.
And then I missed my plane.
Oh, you didn't tell me that part.
No, I missed my plane. And it was all my fault. And learn the lesson. That won't happen again. When they say be there 2.5 hours before for an international flight, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, point of the story is some people would say, this must be a sign that I'm not meant to go. So, how do you know the difference? Is there was just a fire of passion in me that was like, okay, what's next? I sat down on the floor in the airport, got on customer service, said, I just missed my flight. What are my options? I must meet my brother in Las Vegas. And the lady worked with me, bent a few rules, and I got on the flight the next day. And it did throw a little hitch in my giddy up, but I didn't have to get there by donkey. So
Yeah.
there's faith. There
Yeah.
is knowing, feeling, desire, faith. And so there was faith in that 11th hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And that takes practice.
Yeah.
And that takes practice to go from, oh man, that must be a sign that I shouldn't go, to no, there's another way of doing this. And then taking the practical steps. Let me get on the phone. Let me talk with them. And it's that passion. It's that passion, it's that feeling tone, that feeling tone. And
Hmm.
there's so many things in my life that I look back at and look on and go, how did you do that? Oh, there was a feeling behind that this is done. Yeah. And again, that's coming from the heart.
Yes.
It's coming from the heart.
Mhm.
I have clients who will frequently say to me, well, I know it here. It's like, well, no, you can't know it there. We can believe it here. We can intellectually believe it, but we
Mhm.
know it within our heart. That's why musicians play music by heart, because they know it. Poets recite by heart because they know it.
Mhm.
You drive your to work or to school or to wherever you're going by heart because you know it. Yeah,
Exactly. And I want to say possibly that it's Dr. Wayne Dyer, how people will say, I'll believe it when I see it. And he says it's the other way around.
right.
I'll see it when I believe it.
Yeah,
And from the core of knowing it as is. So that's the thing our imagination can do. I've never been to EDC, but I looked at some pictures, I saw myself there.
yeah.
Even though I had never been, I could hear the music. I could
Mm,
feel the sound vibrations on my body. I could hear the laughter, so many things.
yeah. Yeah, so many things.
Mhm.
Again, I mean, as human beings, we are so beautifully created, so magnificently designed to create, and feeling tone is so, so important. So
Yes.
yeah.
And that's why it's sad. I mean, I feel like social media is more of the demise of us than AI, by far,
Hmm.
because another saying that I don't know who to give the credit to, but it's something along the lines of when a flower blooms, it doesn't look at the other flowers to judge its beauty.
Mm,
But as humans, we do that.
yeah.
judge our intelligence, judge our beauty, judge our value. And it is all, we are all of that in a bag of chips. Whoever gets
Right?
credit for that one.
Way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all of that in a bag of chips. And that's, the practice also is not to judge self,
Mhm.
not to judge self. Well, I don't, folks say, but I'm not a good singer. And what I had a coach say, when people say that, what they really mean is they don't sing as good as the person that they like listening to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, well,
Mhm.
so and here we go again, right? Comparing ourselves to others, judging ourselves, against whatever
Mhm.
we think. I had somebody, a mentor, tell me years ago, people quote all these people and they quote whoever they quote. And he says, don't quote them, quote yourself.
Mhm.
And when I thought about that, it's like, okay, well, then let me live my life in a way that's quotable. It's where we get to quote ourselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, which again is not judging ourselves against anyone else. Yeah.
Exactly.
Be that flower that doesn't
Mhm.
care what the other flowers are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how you got the nickname way back, Eugenius,
Yeah.
and how I've had people refer to my quotes as Ellisms.
Yeah.
So it's like, thank you.
Right?
And we talk about the power of the real estate. So, you and I are both certified in NLP, and we know the power of saying what you want, not what you don't. Like, I hope it doesn't rain. Well, what do you want? I want nice weather. Well, the forecast is, whoop, stop, just stop, right? So, that being said, I recently was complaining about not being able to make friends, using this as an example. When you get older, it's harder to make friends because I
Mm.
really hadn't made really any friends here. And I know why, but anyhow, point of the story is my youngest. So I'm like, oh, it's so hard to make friends. Not with that attitude.
Out of the mouth of babes, right? Like,
Yeah,
shut up.
exactly. Or I'll say, like I'm worried about, they're gonna look at me and go, look at this chubby old lady. Don't talk about my mom like that.
Oh
so,
gosh.
so to sweep that story up high and mighty, I stopped saying that. I didn't lie to myself. So it's hard to go from I can't make friends to I make friends easy. Your brain says, who are you talking about?
Right.
So I just stopped saying that, which I no longer wanted to be true.
Right.
And within 3 months, Eugene, my social calendar's so big now, I'm saying no to people.
Yeah.
I went from nobody to having to pick and choose where I'm going and who I'm hanging with
Yeah.
just by stopping that one negative thought
Right.
that making friends is hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Telling you, we are born creators. What do you want to experience, folks?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to experience?
Mm-hmm.
When someone asks, what do you want? Be aware of that answer, that first one that comes out of your mouth. If it's, well, I don't want, that wasn't the question.
Mm-mm.
Right? It's like, I didn't ask you what you didn't want. I'm asking you what you do want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
believe that here's the thing for me, Al, so going back to being dubbed Eugenius, it took me years to step into that. It took me years because not me, I'm not a genius. It took me years to grow into that because names for me are important. Words are. You're like, you know what? Yeah, you are Eugenius. Mwah. Yeah, it's good stuff. What do you want?
It's nice when people who love
Mm.
us, respect us, mirror mirror us back to ourselves. Because the mirrors aren't always, people talk about them as people mirror what you need to see about yourself
Right,
in terms of improving your personality but very often people just mirror back that you're amazing.
right.
that you're intelligent, that you're funny, that you're
Yeah.
lovable.
Yeah.
So embrace that.
Embrace that. Embrace that. Hey,
Mhm.
everybody out there, you're lovable.
Thanks.
Embrace that. And you're gonna love the segue here. You're lovable, and stop blaming yourself for things that are gone. Yeah, going into the
Mhm.
blame. Right. I was listening to um someone speaking, can't remember who it was, and a couple of years ago, speaking about blame, right? And blame, blame, because looking at me ain't easy. So
Exactly.
let me blame somebody else or something else for the condition that I'm experiencing.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
if I'm the creator of my life, then I'm responsible for what I've created.
Hmm.
No, it's the institution. No, it's the government. No, it's AI. No, well, you're right. No, 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 no. Now let go of the blame.
Hmm.
What do you say about blame, man?
Well, it allows you to become untethered. Blame is an invisible tether to generally the past or the actions of another person. And this is so when people say, what's your pivotal moment, or your biggest aha? And it was clearly I was in my 20s and I had been doing a lot of self-help work and books and seminars and all of that. And I was sitting at the dining room table one day and it just came to me, oh, I'm in charge. Oh, I make the decisions. It's my life. Oh, it's not poverty. It's not domestic violence. It's not, any of those things. I can choose, I can step, I can think, I can go. Like I am literally a Dr. Seuss book in the making.
Mm,
And
mm,
so I continued on to remind myself that blame allows us to not take responsibility. Blame allows us to turn our back on the truth
mm,
because we're looking back when we're blaming. It's very rarely that you're forward thinking with a blame. Very rare, unless you're in one of those fake arguments. And so, there's the story about how they train the elephants by tethering them when they're little and they can't get loose. And then when they're adults, they don't know that they can get loose because they're so
right,
strong now. They say the same thing about flea
right.
jumping, like for the flea. So people many of us have these constraints when we're young that we're tethering, that we're scarring, that we're emotionally abusive. And we didn't know that it doesn't have to be that way now.
Right.
We are lovable, we are intelligent, we are creative, we can sing, we can dance, all of those things when we'll allow or take the rocks out of the backpack, right? That's
Mm,
another analogy.
hmm.
Why are you carrying all that stuff around with you? Because if it doesn't serve you, if you haven't learned the lesson and moved on, ask yourself, what's the lesson? Like
Hmm.
when you show up an hour early for an international flight and you don't get on, what's the lesson? Show up early. Don't so because sometimes, and you've told me this before, missing a flight in this case wasn't a sign. What could it mean? Is the universe trying to tell me, sometimes as humans, you miss a flight, you get a flat tire, you catch a cold.
Yeah,
It's not any big wisdom about it. It's the experience of the temple and how we move it through space and time.
yeah. The temple, folks, being the body.
Yes,
Sometimes a stop sign is just a stop sign.
exactly.
It's just, what does this mean? Means that L should get to the airport 2.5 hours earlier. That's all.
And let me tell you, mind blowing, down here where I live, there's different colored stop signs. So it'll be a stop sign, but it might be green or it might
Mm,
be blue. And that just blows my mind. Like, you can no. No,
It has to be red.
it has
Yeah.
to be red.
It has to be red and white. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
shaped a certain thing. It can't be
Right.
round and say
Right.
stop. But that's also a tether. Like,
Yeah.
why does that mean I don't have to stop? Does that mean other people don't have to stop? Because it doesn't fit the parameters. It doesn't fit the expectations, you know? So sometimes we are a green round stop sign. No
Yeah.
matter what our parents say, no matter what the government says, no matter where we live, we are a green round stop sign.
Right. Yeah. And so live that life happily. And live it, and this is the last thing I want us to talk about, and to live it in gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude. Gratitude.
Mhm.
You know, what I found, El, the experience for me in terms of gratitude, it's hard for me to be really upset and grateful at the same time. Now, I could be emotional,
Mhm.
I can be crying, and be grateful for the situation that's going on. And the gratitude is after I go through this, oh man, this is going to be so good. One of the things I like to say is that gratitude is a creative energy that creates more to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. When my husband passed away from the aneurysm, so here one day, gone the next, I couldn't, when my head would hit the pillow at night, I would just start crying, sobbing, to the point where I don't remember how many weeks this went on, but I remember thinking, well, maybe I'll sit up and go to sleep. Like maybe I'll get a
Mm,
different pillow. Like I just wanted the crying to stop. And then one day it did. And it's not a marker. It wasn't like I remember anything changed, but that was just the process,
yeah.
just
Yeah.
going through the process. And that I never felt gratitude in the moment. But the point is, I was reaching for what I wanted. I want this to end. What can I do to make this end? Right. But it took what it took.
Yeah.
And now, looking back, like I said, I can't even remember how long it was actually or how it ended, but it was my process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So watch
Go
out.
ahead.
I was going to say, just watch out for the duality. You can't be mad while you're laughing. That's why people will go, stop it. I want to be grumpy. Leave me alone. Stop making me laugh. Right. So
Right.
be aware of shifting. You can shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And which is a wonderful thing, another other gift that I get to choose to shift. And
Yes.
I get to choose and I decide to be grateful. And I remember, man, years ago going through an experience that just had me at the bottom of, well, at my bottom, which was it, whatever it was. But I got to a point where I was grateful for it
Mm.
because it made me the person that I am now. It was a part of making me who I am now. So
Hmm.
I'm grateful. So folks, I want to encourage everyone to be grateful in everything that gets written in the New Testament or the or whatever one of those scriptural books. In all things, be grateful. What I love about that line, it says, "In all things," not for all things. It says, "In all things."
Yes.
So even when the body temple is going through whatever it's going, the flu or whatever, be grateful even in that. What I've learned, what I've had the experience, El, is just being grateful was such a huge part of the healing process that I was going through physically, where
Yeah.
doctors are going, God, you heal quickly. Well, yeah, because I'm grateful for how this temple works. Yeah,
Yes. Yes. That temple that houses that beautiful soul.
yeah.
And it makes me think of when we see the old ones, like say in Indonesia, and some of the temples have the vines and they're kind of
Mm,
crumbling. And as humans, we allow that to happen to our own temples,
mm,
by smoking, drinking, drugs, not sleeping well. whatever it might be, choosing to live in stress. And it's the temple starts to go, we can't do this.
Right.
We're symbiotic.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so choose to honor your temple.
Yeah. And choose to honor the temple also by being aware of the thoughts that we keep.
Mhm.
I came to the realization that there are thoughts that we have and there are thoughts that we keep.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
we want to, and if I'm keeping the thoughts of lack and limitation or keeping the thoughts of being or of blaming people, my tempo suffers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I may not feel it immediately. And if I keep that type of behavior up, it's going to continue, it's going to break down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Stress, man.
Yeah, it's a negative vibration for our temple. It's hard it's hard for it to keep its magnificence when we have this contrary vibration
Yeah.
going all the time. Like sometimes when the cars will go by blasting the music and my windows will vibrate. It's
Mm,
not even me.
right.
Sometimes things outside of us can affect us. So
Right.
make the choice to say that's a thought that's not staying with me.
Right.
It's one that's, what did you say? Thoughts that you choose and keep something.
Thoughts that we have, because I had this thought and thoughts that I keep. So let me not keep the
Mhm.
thoughts that have me functioning at a or have me functioning at a lower vibration.
Mhm.
Let me keep those thoughts that keep me high, that keep me in my genius mode. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Gratitude. People, find
Mhm.
5 things today to be grateful for. And then tomorrow. And then the day after that. And the day
Yeah,
after that. And the day. Make it a consistent practice. But
a
Eugene,
consistent practice.
hmm?
Yes,
Yeah.
consistency. Then it just becomes who you are, a
Right.
grateful person.
Yeah. 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 So even if you in this moment don't think that you have anything to be grateful for, stop and take a breath and be grateful for the breath and think about without the
Mhm.
breath how life might be.
Mhm. Mhm.
Be grateful
Exactly.
for the breath. Yeah, be
And I love
grateful.
the distinction of being grateful in, not just grateful for.
Yeah.
So I'd be grateful for running water and my electricity. And I am grateful for the loving relationships I'm in,
Mm,
sharing the work that I do within me in others. So sometimes you got to dig a little deeper for what you're in that you're
hmm
grateful for
hmm
versus what you're experiencing, what you have that you're grateful for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little deeper dive.
Yeah. Welcome to the deep end.
Mhm. Yay.
Yay. Elle, thank you so much for another fantastic episode of the Academy of Self-Mastery. And you're here this whole month now, huh?
I am. I miss
Yeah.
June.
Yeah. Miss June. Great. So everybody, yeah, that's the only thing that I'm going to ask that you do is to be aware of the things that you're grateful for. That's your practice, is to
Mhm.
write 5 things a day, at least 5 things a day that you're grateful for. You can do 10, 5 in the morning and 5 before bed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my homework to you guys for this week. How about you, Elle?
Excellent. So my homework for them is in order to make that practice easier or to simplify it, is to just do those 3 rounds of domino breathing first. So get out of the hamster wheel of your head that says, I don't have time to do this. This is a bunch of crap. Da, da, da. And you breathe in deeply and fully, counting down 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And you can even draw the breath in from the heavens. 4, 3, breathing in the love and light. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3. Anything that's not serving you can go. And then one more on your own in deep and full. Release, let go. And now you're in the space of authentic intelligence
Yeah.
where you can create.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, my dear friend. And I want to thank everybody who has tuned in, and tell a friend about the Academy of Self Mastery.
Yeah.
We're here every week. And also, if you want or have anything that you would like for us to talk about, reach out to us. You can send me an email at Eugene Holden at no Eugene at EugeneHolden.com. Again, that's Eugene at EugeneHolden.com. And in the subject line, just put podcast and then say, hey, whatever you want to say, Eugene, I would like for you guys to talk about this or whatever comes up for you. All right. That's about it for us.
Yeah. And you can comment if you're watching on YouTube. Get the dialogue going in the comments, and we'd be happy to get the ball rolling before we actually come on live.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Sounds good. Good. People, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next time on the Academy of Self Mastery.
Blessings all.
Blessings, everyone.